Hello, everyone. Welcome again to yet another episode of Contact Lost, the Polish English-speaking podcast about Warhammer 40k, both in Poland and abroad. Today, one more time, I don't have Joker with me because I'm still in St. Louis, in a hotel somewhere, deep in St. Louis. But I'm using this opportunity that I'm here, that the time zone difference between Poland and some other places in the world between St. Louis and some other places in the world is not that big. So I get to introduce guests with whom I probably wouldn't speak, or it would be very difficult to speak with. So you can see here who my guest is. I guess the great part of the world already know who that person is. If you've read the title of this episode, you probably also know who that person is. But still, ladies and gentlemen, I give you part of the mercenaries team to the WTC, the wonderful host of multiple shows on the internet, Mr. Adam Camilleri.
My very great pleasure to be here, my mate. I want to say that I'm a very long-standing listener of Contact Lost and supporter of what you guys do, and yeah, my great pleasure to be on your show.
I cannot thank you enough for joining, and I'm still a little bit starstruck, so but let's see what we can make out of it.
Please don't be. I'm not worth it.
No, it's difficult, but we'll try. So listen, I said at the very beginning, as part of the introduction, member of the mercenary team to the WTC. We will go into that in a moment, but again, as I mentioned in the pre-show, the great part of the world probably has heard your voice. The great part of the world probably knows what you've been up to in the recent years and so on. But to my fellow Polish guys in my country who might have never heard of you, can you briefly introduce yourself and say what it is that you do and why do I have you on the show, actually?
Sure. So yeah, my name's Adam Camilleri. I'm from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. I run a couple of different podcasts. Maybe you know me best on the Thursday show on Frontline Gaming Network, or on Art of War Down Under on the Art of War Network. But I started content creation, I think it was 2016, 2017. I was a long-standing competitive fantasy player. And then when fantasy died, I made the jump over to 40k. Then through a couple of different reasons, I decided I wanted to start streaming. I started streaming games, trying to do commentary. I've commentated on a couple of LVOs now. I've commentated on a couple of different other things. I was really hoping to commentate on the very first WTC, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And then when that didn't happen, the lovely Neil Kerr, who's a great friend of mine, said, well, if you're not going to commentate, do you want to play? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Chuck me in, coach. And he slotted me into that beautiful Warhammer United team, and I was very happy to play in my third ETC or WTC. I represented Australia in 2018 and then in the very successful 2019 team. So I was not any part of the 2022 team that won and did so well. None of those kudos go to me. Those boys did all that work themselves, and they deserve all the props.
Right, they definitely do. But then I brought you because you were part of something that I actually consider quite amazing, because there were 28 teams to the WTC, and there was only one that did not represent like a particular country, and this was your team that basically collected, I guess, players from multiple countries. How is such a team created? Is there like a forum for players internationally who want to duke it out with some national representations, or how does that work?
Yeah, so this year was a bit different. Usually when they have an odd number of teams and nations in representation at the international level, it'll be beholden on the council, or either the council, or in some cases, like when for the Australian national competition, we have our ATC where every state sends a team. The home team, the home country, whoever's hosting it that year, they have to put up a mercenary team. They have to get a team of locals to make up the last number. And so at the world level, that's no different. You have to make up a last number, have to make a Gumby team. And in years gone by, it's been a compilation of a bunch of players from different nations that they stick together to make a cohesive team. This year, they went out of their way to make a strong team out of the mercenary team. And I won't say just because I was on it. I was one of the middling performers on this team. We had some absolute beasts, and it was a nice thing. I haven't talked about this much anywhere else, and I've been kind of ducking and weaving it, so I'm not sure if you want to go into it on this one, but there was a couple of Russian players on my team, on the Warhammer United team. And so one of the captains, a gentleman named Sasha, who captained it. He was an absolute legend, and he, I believe, is part of what I hope will be a change in perspective and optics for Russian players and people from the Russian scene, because he's an absolute gentleman. He plays at a very high level, and he's extremely enjoyable to hang around with. So there was 2 people from Russia, a couple of people from Belarus, one absolute gun from Poland. Our tower player was Arek.
Exactly, that's correct.
Yeah, he's a monster. He was really good. And then we had a gentleman from America named Brandon, and myself from Australia. So 5 different nations represented in our side.
Okay, so I would like to say, to all our listeners, that this episode is, well, it's intended as the first part of a 2-parter, because I would like to also interview the above mentioned Arek. So hopefully we can get him both for his account of the WTC, the mercenary team, and also his account of TAL and how it plays at team tournaments. So on the topic of armies and so on, I think I know from Arek that you played Grey Knights. What affected your choice? Because I don't know. Is that your army that you play on a regular basis, or was that affected by the captain, the team composition? How did it come about?
So when I jumped into the team, I think I was the 6th member to join the team. There was a couple of people on the outer as well. But when I joined, there was already a Space Marine player. And Space Marines are pretty much, I've been playing Dark Angels for probably the better part of the last 2 years. Been playing Dark Angels, and before that, all through 7th edition, 8th edition, I played Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, and of course, Astra Militarum doesn't really. I don't believe they have a list worth taking, and the only list I thought that was worth taking was with Astra Militarum and Custodes. Custody Dreadnoughts plus Astra Militarum artillery goes together quite well as a decent 3rd defender or a bit of a pin into some other shooting lists. Yep, I don't mind that, but we already had a Custody player.
Okay, so that kills.
So Space Marines were taken, Custodians were taken, and there's no mono Astra Militarum that I'm willing to say to get laughed at to try and take the WTC.
Perfectly understandable.
They're not awful, but they're just not at that level. They just can't. They have no role. They get bullied too easy. And so I thought the only 2 other lists I was given the option. I could take Thousand Suns. I could take Death Guard. I don't play Chaos. I haven't played Chaos in a while, and I know Thousand Suns is a very high skill level list. Like, you can play it okay at a medium level, but if you want to get good results, you have to get good, because there's a lot to know there, Cabal points, etc. So then I fell back to, I have a bit of experience playing Grey Knights in a lot through 8th edition. I played them as an ally to my guard for a lot of 8th edition. I was putting the Pally Star in there, and a lot of mechanics are pretty similar. And then Knights is the army I want to play next year. So those are the 2 armies that I tossed up for what I wanted to play. Either start on what I want to play next year early and get into that book, or fall back on something that plays pretty similar to how I've been playing Dark Angels. So I've been playing Dark Angels at all the team events, and those have been defensive builds, of course, with the Deathwing being the backbone. And I thought I could build a similar style of Grey Knight list. So I'd be operating at least on some foundation of skill, that I already have. And I decided to go with that, because I didn't want to overstretch, and I think I had 10 days until list submission from when I joined the team. So I didn't have a lot of time to make this decision. So I pretty much just went with the thing that I thought would give me the best result for the team, which was Grey Knights.
Right. So when you say you have 10 days, I always assume that mercenary one that has the toughest time actually preparing for the event. And so did you have any time for like proper preparation? And by preparation, I mean, either playing the army against like the topmost army builds, but also like did the team have any time to do pairings, or at least try to predict what the games are going to go like?
Yeah, so it was, of course, like you said, it's really it's an uphill battle for the mercenary team, because, well, especially in Australia. So I got named as a member of this team, and as soon as I did, I told all the people I practice with, and all the people I practice with were on Team Australia. So that's the Team Australia Sisters player, Drakari player, Knight player. They're my regular opponents. That's who I play every week, and so I couldn't practice with any of them. I said, yeah, they're not going to practice with me, and it was the right call for them to not. So I was left on the outside. For the 6 weeks before the event, I had to practice with whoever I could practice with. So it wasn't the super high quality, like, 20 or 30 reps that I wanted, but I still got I think I got about 10 reps in. I took them to a GT. I took them to an event, the Grey Knight list I was taking, and I practiced against a couple of Grey Knight specialists who, while it didn't give me the pressure, they were able to help me clean up my game. Help me. This is the order of operations you need to do, Adam. I'll make sure you do this power first. Spend the CP on the 3d6 to cast. Don't risk failing the gate. Stuff like that. And so that helped me a lot, actually. But you were right. What it didn't help me with was getting my pairings right, my pairings matrix. I didn't learn a lot about that. I had to go a lot off gut, off what I thought, and then I adjusted based on that. So I got I got okay with the list, but I didn't get knowledge of how my list did into the meta. If that makes sense.
Okay. So what was the list, and what was the idea for the list? Was it supposed to be the defender, the attacker?
So
how did that play?
When we did our so Sasha went over all the prospective archetypes, and there was 2 archetypes I wanted to take. The one I wanted to take the most was full MSU, just nothing but MSU Grey Knights. 3x3 paladins, purifiers, crow, drago, strikes, interceptors, just loads of stuff. Overwhelm people with numbers, and that would be could play as a defender, could play as an attacker, depending on the matchup. But then Sasha asked me, hey, we actually need another defender, Adam, and you're the best choice we have, and we'd like you to take the 10 paladins, and so you can make a bit more of a brick you into the defender role, and then I'll just try and keep you away from the reds, which you did pretty successfully, apart from one game. And so I took a librarian, which had the Gem of Inoktu for the +2 to cast. And then I took Kaldor Drago, of course, because he's freaking amazing. 3 units of strikes. Then I took 1 unit of 3 paladins with swords, 1 unit of 10 paladins, all with swords. An apothecary who had the redeploy, which was extremely valuable, and then a unit of servitors, 20 interceptors, 10 with swords, 10 with halberds, and 1 rhino, and that was the whole list. And so apart from the 10 halberds, everything else was a sword. Everything else had swords, because I thought that was the best profile, and I think it still is the best profile.
Okay.
So the list was supposed to
on.
function as a 2nd or 3rd defender, or go in as a pin against shooting armies. So if somebody had tried to use craft wheels or towers to put up, I'd be one of the pin options into that, because neither of those armies love to fight against me, and they were going to try and push them or pressure them into another option.
Okay. So was that list at all tailor-made for the WTC tables, or was it more, the model availability that you have, or another factor?
Absolutely tailored it for the tables. I think the Rhino choice, on worse terrain, I don't think I take the Rhino. The Rhino just gets killed turn 1. But on WTC terrain, and with the redeploy, not that I can redeploy the Rhino, but I can redeploy everything else around it. It gets very versatile. And my MVP was my Rhino from that list. That was the best model in the list. Was I get the Rhino a little bit outside my deployment zone, and every turn I clown car a unit through to disrupt primary through the Rhino. It worked really well. And then anyone wants to push on the Rhino, 10 paladins, enjoy. But that so it was tailor-made for it, because I know as a defender, the trading game is where I want to exist. I want to keep the scores, keep the differential low, and make sure I have the ability to hurt their primary as much as they have the ability to hurt mine. So that was definitely what was built into the list. And of course, I think the MSU one I was going to take was pushing that a little bit more, but what was pointed out to me was that list had almost all yellows. That list, the one with the MSU, was just yellows across the board. There was no greens, no reds. This list, the one I did take, had a lot more reds, but actually had some greens as well. So it could apply some pressure in the pairings rather than just copping it in the defender role, So, absolutely right choice.
So if you say that there were some greens and some reds, what were the most potential reds that you didn't want to face?
So what sucked is that this is on me, because I didn't have enough chance to play games into a multitude of different things. I didn't identify that just about every team was going to have 3 reds for me: Necrons, Sisters, and Blood Angels. Everyone took Blood Angels. 15 teams out of 27 took Blood Angels. Yeah. That was a red. Sisters, Bloody Rose is just a red. And Necrons is just the best army in the game. So cool. Can't beat them. But the fact is, when it went to the pairings process, I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, I have 3 reds. And as soon as you have 3 reds, you can only be a third defender now. Unless the first defender is perfect and takes one of your reds out, and then they put up one of their reds, one of your reds, etc., etc.
Yeah.
The third defender is where you have to live. Otherwise, you just get pinned at the first or second. My list always got points against everybody. I mean, even against, I played Sisters once. I still got a 16-4. I predicted to get 1 or 2 points out of that game. I got 4 points out of that game, so I'm quite happy with that. And then it just scrapped. You have the term scrapping in Poland. You scrap for points, try and make 10 10s, 11. Yeah. So I wanted all my games to be between 12s and 8s, depending on what the matchup was.
Yeah, that's a good assumption.
And that's pretty much what my job was.
Okay. So how is now this is an honest question, because after, I think, what is it? Nephilim?
Yep.
I think, yeah. After Nephilim came out, I only played against Grey Knights once at a tournament. So what does the Grey Knights secondary game look like right now? I mean, are there reliable secondaries, or did you struggle for secondaries during your game?
I struggled for a third secondary. I always had 2 good secondaries, unless I played against Sisters. The 2 good secondaries being, of course, Purifying Ritual, which I still think is one of the best secondaries in the game. As in, like, you purify on 2 home objectives for 2 points. You do 1 outside your deployment zone, you got 4 points. You do that twice, and cool, you're happy days. And then, of course, there's shenanigans with moving on and moving off objectives after you purify them and gating all over the place. The third objective really depended on the opponent, whether I could take no prisoners if they gave out no prisoners, or bring it down, or I had to take engage in all fronts or behind enemy lines, or R&D, which is what I ended up taking against the Sisters, which was actually a very good performer. Turn 1 in that game, I 2 CP shunted 5 interceptors and just prayed I didn't roll the 6. On the R&D, and because I didn't roll the 6, I got 8 points on that secondary. Just 2 CP to get 4 points. It was actually a good choice. And so yeah, that was funny.
Okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. We will get into the games right in a moment. Just one last question before we do. Do you remember, apart from bringing Tau, which you've already mentioned, what were the other armies on your team? Do you remember?
So we had Sasha, our captain, playing a very strong Sisters list. We had a gentleman playing Custodes. We had Brandon on Dark Angels, Arek on Tau, like you said. We had Necrons. We had myself on Grey Knights, and we had Behemoth Tyranids. What was the last one? We had Fjordor on Krafla Doda.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say nobody ever remembers the 8th army once they've gone through all the 7. But yeah.
So
good job.
we had a pretty conventional lineup. I think I was the odd one out. The Grey Knights was the odd one in the lineup, because we had Necrons, Blood Angels, Sisters, our Custodes as well. Custodes and Grey Knights were the 2 that we took that a lot of people didn't take.
Yeah, that's true. Although, Team America took their Custodes.
Yeah,
so...
there were still a few. There was a handful of Grey Knights and Custodes, but Australia didn't take either. England, I don't think, took either. I don't think Poland didn't take either. Germany didn't take either. Yeah, so there was a bit of a disparity there.
Yeah, but then again, sometimes it comes as a surprise, and it might have that surprise factor that people are not expecting what the list is going to do or something.
And it shows how Nephilim evened out a lot of the meta, where a lot of lists could be taken, whereas 3 or 4 months ago, no chance for some of these armies.
Yeah, so I think it's a step in the right direction, but we'll get to the summary of where the meta is right now probably at the end. So let's listen about your games and how they went. So who did you play for? Do you remember your matchups?
I do, I think. So day 1 is a bit of a blur. So day 1 is 3 games, 4 hours each. So it's a lot of hard work. But first up, I played against Team Finland's Tyranid player, and Tyranids is it's usually, so I put it in as a 4. So a 5 is a draw, a 4 is a 12-8 their way. And so I put it in as a 4. So it's a 12. I expected to get 8 points out of this matchup, and I did. I got it 12-8 his way. And this was just a bunch of Tyranid warriors with harpies and things like that. Oh, I got to tell you about one secondary that everyone doesn't know about. So a teleport assault. If a Grey Knight unit kills a unit when it arrives from teleport shunt, gate, or deep strike, you get 4 points. What I was doing was with stuff like harpies. People would fly harpies over and do bombing and then shoot into like my ruins and things. I'd fully buff my 10 paladins, and then I'd shoot and smite the harpy, and then I would gate the paladins up and straight back down in the same position, shoot the harpy dead, and get 4 points, and not leave my deployment zone, and not do anything. Put up my banners, do my purifying ritual. That's pretty much what I did. I didn't do very much to expose myself this game. He didn't do very much to expose himself this game. He forgot one key overrun. Like he just completely forgot an overrun, which I think cost him a couple of points. It probably would have been a 13-7 had he remembered. But even then, it's not that big a deal. It was a pretty even game. We just kind of butted heads in the middle, and everything was pretty much as expected. Second game we played against Greece, and I played against the Greece Knight player, which was a very good matchup for me. I really wanted to play a lot of. If I could play Knights all weekend, I would have been very happy. There's not much they can do to me from shooting through Tide of Shadows and Armor of Contempt, and then my Paladins having Armored Resilience. I can essentially just send the Paladins at them, and they can't really kill them. And so that's what happened. I went first, redeployed, walked up behind a central ruin. And then he went first, shot and killed a unit or two, and then the Paladins pushed straight in, ate a big knight, and then just pressured him out of the game, and I got a big win. So that was a nice one for me. Then in game 3, I got thrown under the bus a little bit, and played against Sisters, the Australian Sisters player, who's a very good friend of mine. He's a very good friend. We play all the time. In fact, we played this matchup at a one-day tournament. So I managed to play a one-day tournament and a two-day tournament with my list, but I was after list submission, and I played against his exact list versus my exact list. And in that one, I think it was an 18-2 his way, and this one was a 16-4 because I took R&D instead of taking because I tried to take a psychic secondary versus him, and I tried to take banners, and I tried to take teleport assault, and I realized I can't take banners and purifying. I had to take one or the other, and so I dropped off banners and took R&D instead because it's in the same category. I got 8 on R&D, got 12 on teleport assault, and I think I only got 6 or 7 on purifying ritual. But that was because guess what? This bastard, my mate Jeremy, this absolute bastard, in the first 3 turns rolled 5 6s to deny purifying ritual points. 5 6s, just bang.
Insane.
Because of course,
absolutely.
Every single one of because I was trying it 2 or 3 times a turn, and so there's 2 or 3 chances every turn, and so what's that? That's 9 chances to deny, and he did 5 times. He rolled 6s to stop me. Otherwise, crazy. I would have gotten a much better score there. But still, 16-4, not unhappy with that score, and that was the end of day 1.
Okay, so after day 1, what did you actually do? Because I'm extremely curious. Like, did you run to your mates from the Australian team to see how they did and so on, or did you hang out with your team for the majority of the time? So what do mercenaries do?
So I was real anxious going into that game versus Australia, into that day, because actually me playing my own country and a team that I'd played for recently, I was a member of that. I was a named member of that team in 2020. If the WTC happened in 2020, I would have played for Team Australia. And so it was a big. I was scared of that game. I was like, oh no, I don't want this to go badly. Do I even want to win this game? Do I even want to play against my country? But then afterwards, it was a great relief. So I had a bit of a laugh with them, but then I left them alone. Like I was letting them have. And I was trying not to get in the way, but I was still a bit of a pest. I was still walking up like, "How'd you guys do? Did you have a good game? Who won? Who lost? How's it going? Blah 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 blah." But I was trying to let them do their thing because they had a lot of work to do.
And probably they were dead tired as well.
Oh, exhausted. And so after that, I went and got some food, went straight to bed. Then I think it was I can't remember if it was the night before the teams. We went out for team dinner, which was the first time I met my team, by the way. So this is how the mercenaries work. I'd never met I met Sasha because I walked up to him during a game in the singles and shook his hand and said, "Hi, g'day, I'm your Grey Knight player." Because we'd only been talking on Messenger before. And so it wasn't until the night before the teams that I actually met the rest of my squad. So yeah, that's just how the mercs go.
Okay, just one more question about the mercs because I find it really interesting. It was a very peculiar mixture of individuals. You said Russia, Belarus, Poland, Australia,
American.
An American. Was the language ever an issue?
Yes and no. I mean, at the team dinners, I'd be sitting there, and then they'd talking Russian, Belarusian, Polish, whatever they were speaking. I don't even know what they were speaking. And then every now and then someone would stop and translate the last couple of sentences to me, and I'd be like, "Ah, that's funny," and then they'd go off and talk again, and I'd be like.
But like during the tournament, during pairings, or like the captain, I don't know, walked between tables and he actually instructed you in English or something.
Yeah. So it's one of the rules at the WTC that all communication that happens between coaches and players during the games has to be done in English. The pairings, like at times, Sasha would lean back and ask in Russian or Belarusian, like, "Are you going to lose this game if I put you in?" And the guys would be like, or whatever, and then whatever. But during the round, you have to speak English.
All right. Okay. So going into day 2 or game 4, what was that?
So I believe I can't remember if it was Austria first, but I played against Thousand Suns. Now I had Thousand Suns as a 10-10, but this Thousand Suns had Magnus in it. And I thought, cool, either Magnus is going to do nothing or he's going to wreck me. And it turns out Magnus wrecked me. But this is something that we identified, when I was talking with the Australians, they'd already identified that Thousand Suns win a lot of games, but they don't get big differentials. They don't get big 20-0 wins. None of them, like, you don't even get 15-5s. So this guy, the Austrian T-Suns player, kicked my ass. Like I entered the game with about 6 models. Yeah, it was only 11-9 to him. Like he had still 2 units of Scarabocol Terminators. I only just killed Magnus in the last turn, but I had the bottom of turn and I just planned for it, spread out, got a 12, and I got like 20 points in the last turn and changed it from 15-5, 16-4 to 11-9. And that's the issue I think that's the issue with T-Suns. Mind you, Magnus denied all my powers, everything. Every time I tried. Yeah, because he denies with +2 and a reroll and all that stuff, or 3d6, whatever. And so he shut me down really hard, and that was a learning for me. I had to go back through all my other pairings now and just check if they got Magnus. If it was Magnus, chuck it down 2 points. No Magnus, I put it up. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, but it's actually an interesting list if you think about it, because you said 2 breaks of Terminators, Magnus. That's already like 1,200 points or something like that.
Yeah, that was
or even more. Okay. But good score nonetheless. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, I managed to dig it back because by turn 3, he also made a couple of charges from reserve. Like he was duplicity and did his own gate power right from reserve and made charges, and that hurt my score quite a lot. And as soon as that was happening, I was like, well, all I can do now is conserve enough units to have a good turn 5. And I did. I got like 20-something points on the bottom of turn, and that was enough to make it a respectable game again. But yeah, he genuinely played better than me. Like undeniably, he had a better grasp of that matchup. Because once again, I just didn't have the time to test that one. So yeah, we played against Austria. I'm trying to figure out who our last day was, who the last game was against. Please forgive me for a sec. I'm just gonna pull up the event.
No worries.
I know I played against Death Guard, but I can't remember the nation. I don't want to get it wrong. Pairings. Yeah, sorry, just look it up on BCP. But yeah, I played against Death Guard. Very, very strong player, and I had Death Guard as an interesting one. He had the 40, so round 5. He had the 40 Plague Marines, which I got to say, I respect a lot now. Yeah, it was Denmark. I thought it was Denmark. I didn't want to say Denmark. So yeah, the Denmark Death Guard player. Now, it was a 5 objective mission, and he went first. And so I had this as another one that I thought was a 12-8 his way. So I thought he was going to go up 12 points to my 8. And what happened was he went first, move advanced 30 Plague Marines and the Blightspawn with fights last in the 12-inch aura onto the middle objective. And I was like, I can't win anymore.
Seriously, was it
game over?
And
12-8.
Was it actually how the game went?
It was. He got into the middle. I pushed up a little bit just to see what would happen. Like I pushed out the Terminators because I'm like, I'll see if he goes in, if he charges into me and he fails, like he falls over, I can roll him up and turn it to a 12-8 against him. But if I go in and I fail, I just fall back, defend my 2 objectives, and get the 12-8. And that's what happened. I moved up. He charged 2 units of Plague Marines into my Paladins, killed 7 of them. demolished them. I killed those 2 units back. Didn't have enough left to push the other 20 to pressure the other 20 plus his characters. So I just moved back. We got a 12-8.
Yeah. So I wanted. Do you think that this game would have gone differently had you started?
If I'd have started, I would have. It would have been closer to a 10-10 because I would have just planned to do to him what he did to me. But the fundamental issue is we're both melee armies. We're both melee trading armies, and one army has fights last, the other one doesn't. So he always gets to trade up on me. He gets the first trade is favorable to him. And then I need CP elsewhere via interrupt and other shenanigans in order to bridge the gap. But what I have that he doesn't is I have mortal wounds. And so I was just trying to smite, do enough damage, Vortex of Doom, do enough damage, and just see over the next like 2 or 3 turns if I did enough damage that I could then try and commit and get the 12 on the bottom of turn. And I didn't. So and that's what was going to swing it back in my favor. I don't think it would change much. I had it as a 12-8 his way, and that's what it ended up being with him going first. With me going first, maybe it's an 11-9 or 10-10, but it's definitely not a win. Like that's not a list that I beat. It's a list that I have to fight to get to a draw.
Yeah, but so far you've been pretty spot on with the pairing, with the scores and so on.
I am very proud of my. I'm going to say it right here. I'm going to say it once. I'm very proud of my performance. I got my number or exceeded it at every single time. So yeah, I'm really. I suppose this is some things fall into place for me in my third time doing this at the international level, where I think I understand the pairings a bit more. I think I understand my scoring a bit more as well. And I understand the missions pretty well. And also I learned a lot. So the Australian ATC, the Australian National WTC equivalent, we play on the same tables, play on the same terrain. And so I played that in May. So I had a good experience of what to expect on these tables. And yeah, I was lucky enough to have the gentleman who lent me the army, who lent me the beautiful Grey Knights I used. I just finished painting up a Castellan Row. He helped me do a lot of the scores. He was my think tank. You know, I think I get this score versus Tyranids, and he's like, yeah, but what if they are Kraken instead? What do you think that changes? What if they have 2 Flyrants instead of just the 1 Flyrant? Blah blah blah. And so he helped me get a lot of those scores in, and it turns out like together we were very correct.
A cool think tank.
I took 2 losses on day 2, so it kind of sucked. I'd never got a losing record at WTC before. First time was I went 4-2, then I went 3-3 in 2019. And so I was going into this one with 1 win. Even though I'd gotten all the scores I predicted for the matchups, it still kind of felt bad. So I really wanted to finish strong in day 3. And first round I played against Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and I got into Tau. The first time I played against an actual shooting army, and I was really happy because my army was built to be oppressive to shooting armies, like through Tighter Shadows and armor of armored resilience. The paladins just really can't die to shooting. Like I still get a 2+ save versus like Halo Doom shuriken cannons. It's pretty crazy. If I'm in cover or whatnot. And so yeah, I played against this. We were the second last pairing, and he had a really awkward choice on tables. So he had the choice between 2 tables. He had a table with a lot of vents, or he had a table with a lot of forests. And so he chose
either way.
Neither are good. But the vents were better for his sister's player, who was the other one. So he took the one with the forest to make things easier for them. What the forest did was meant that between Tighter Shadows, the cover, and the forest, his whole army was -1 to hit me the whole game. And so because of that, I think I got a 16-4, 15-5. I'll double check for you, but it was a comfortable win. Yeah, it's quite a comfortable win versus.
Okay, that's awesome. So, any highlights of the game? Like anything specific that you want to highlight apart from the forests and the difficult terrain? Do you remember? Again, which secondaries you take against Tau, for example, for our Grey Knight listeners?
So I looked at his list and saw that he had 2 units of Kroot, a unit of Strike Marines, and then 2 Sunshark bombers. And then I'm like, well, I just get to max teleport assault. And essentially turn 1 was me staying in my deployment zone and just smiting and pick up a bomber. Next turn, smite, pick up a bomber. And then next turn, kill Kroot. Next turn, kill I can't remember what it was, but yeah, 2 units of Kroot Hounds and 2 units of 2 bombers that I farmed turn by turn, and I maxed teleport assault.
Wow,
really easily.
that's clever.
So it's versus them, they give it up extremely easily. The bombers being only 4 up armor save, I spent 2 CP for my paladins to have auto wound on 6s and rend 1 on their bolt guns, and then Drago rerolls plus 2 smites, kill a whole bomber, dead bomber, 4 points. Feels really strong in that pairing. That was one of the reasons. He has no psychic, so he can't stop my psychic secondary.
Right.
Cannot really pressure my my banners. Can't take objectives off me very well unless he's throwing whole crisis suit units, which then I get to kill. And then I get a really easy third secondary. So pretty much any time I have an easy third secondary pick, that's a game that's a green for my list.
Okay. Yeah. I'm still surprised by the score. It's 16-4 or something like that.
Let me double check. Let me double check for you. I don't want to lie and speak out of turn. Where do I check the individual?
But no matter if it's like 16-4 or 15-5, it's still a very nice score against town.
Yeah, and I do want to say the table cost him at least like a point or two on the differential. Like the table pick was pretty rough. Let me just switch this to all pairings, and then Control F. No, it's a 13-7. Apologies.
No, it's still not so bad. I would say very
13. Good. Thank you. 13-7, and then the last round. Who did you play last round? I got a 14-6 versus Team Belgium. Team Belgium's Tyranid player.
Okay.
That was an interesting game because he had 2 big blocks of Tyranid warriors. And what happened in this game was just an aberration. I don't know anybody who thinks strike marines aren't amazing. You're wrong. The strike marines were like the most dangerous and deadly part of my army. I had 5 strike marines go in and I think killed 6 or 7 Tyranid warriors through invulnerable save through catalyst, like Leviathan Tyranid warriors. 5 of them just went in, just dead. See you later.
Was you rolling really badly, or were you rolling hot?
I did, and he did. It was great.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's quite uncommon. But again, I'm very happy that it played to your advantage.
Yeah.
Because Poland played Belgium in the first pairing, and we drew, I think, or like very very close draw. So yeah. So kudos. Well done.
So yeah, 16-4 versus the Tyranids. He I thought he played very well. There was a couple of swings that went against him. But what ended up happening was I managed to keep the tyrant away from the paladins, and I finally figured out how to negotiate the flyrant, which is to combat squad everything. So if the flyrant goes in and kills 5 guys, who cares? The flyrant just gets to kill five things a game. I just, in my head, it's like, cool, I'm going to end with 5 less things because the flyrant's just going to kill 5 things. And then I just played as normal without any fear of the flyrant. And that was the biggest learning I had. Just be like, the flyrant's just going to do what it does. Nothing I can do to stop it until he makes a mistake. He has to make a mistake for me to go to get it. Until then, it doesn't matter. Just keep playing the game. But yeah, so the paladins actually didn't do much this game because as long as I kept the paladins back, he didn't use the flyrant. And so it got till turn 3 before the flyrant came out into the middle. And then I put out the paladins, and we ended up fighting over the middle. I had the bottom of turn as well, and that ended up being the big difference. Like we met in the middle, killed. I got a little bit better on the dice rolls, which resulted in me getting the end of turn scoring that turned it. It was a 12-8 to him. Then it was a 10-10, then it was a 12-8 to me, and then the bottom of turn went really well for me on turn 5, became a 16-4. So 14-6.
Beautiful. So 14-6 against Tyranids, again, wonderful. So I need to ask this because that was your last game. Has it ever crossed your mind after the tournament what it would have been like if you had taken Dark Angels, for example? Do you think you did? So yeah, would it be much better or much worse?
Much better.
Okay. All right.
I had like 3 lists that I was really ready to run, either as a defender or an attacker into this meta. And yeah, I was so keen to play Dark Angels when I heard that I might get a spot on the Merc team. And I was like, sweet. I had a little bit of a big shot moment when I realized in the week before I got selected for the team, I became #1 Dark Angels player in the ITC. And I'm like, sick, they're going to want me to play Dark Angels. This is before I knew anything about the team. I didn't know they already had a Blood Angels player. Like, they're going to want me to play Dark Angels. Get a list ready, Adam. Get a list or 2 ready. And I was getting stuff, and I was writing this list. Then they're like, we got a Blood Angels player. I'm like, no, shit.
Yeah, I would feel the same.
I think so. There's two Dark Angels lists. The Dark Angels list that I would have taken would essentially have been another tower list. It was literally just another tower list for what it does. Two flyers. I got 2 Dark Talons to go from with the 2 bombers, which is a really great pin to use against a lot of people. Some sisters lists who don't have many retributors or like to leave their Zephyrim off the table. They have to tap them on the board, and even then you get to alpha strike them sometimes and just keep flying off the table. And then it has the thunder strikes. I actually really wanted to take a bunch of attack bikes. I think attack bikes are a unit that is getting a little overlooked at the moment. They could go down in some points, but I still think they're strong. I never understood why everyone takes the multiple Talon Masters. Like, don't get it. Yeah, I think
Just
one
sheer power probably, but
one and done. Well, in the pairings, if you can keep them away from Armor of Contempt, they're very good into Eldari, into Tau and whatnot, and Leviathan and things like that. But yeah, still, I would have loved to play Dark Angels, but I'm not unhappy with my result. I'm very proud of what our team did and the way we conducted ourselves. And yeah, I'm happy with my result as well. I think I played pretty well considering the amount of practice and prep I had.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So both the scores that you managed to pull off, the prediction of the scores that you've done. I mean, everything seems spot on. So again, it sounds like a good showing. What place did you take, in the grand, end of the event?
I personally came 130th, so I came like right in the middle, with what 3 wins, 4 losses, but our team came 11th. So
that's again middle of the pack, right?
Middle of the pack. Yeah, we're really proud of our results. Coming 11th, we think is pretty good. 11 out of 28. This is not bad at all. So upper part of the middle, and considering a couple of things go a little bit differently. Like we got 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. I mean, one of the draws becomes a win pretty easily, and things can change for us quite a lot. But then of course we play against harder opposition if that happens as well. So who knows what happens?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you played against teams that basically had 2.5 years of preparation or more. Who knew the pairings through and through. They didn't choose armies in the last minute, or maybe some of them did, but no, in general, it's a great feat. So
very much.
If I could ask you to put on the Thursday show hat for a moment there, and if you could summarize the event, your impressions, the organization of the event. Can I have your summary, Adam Camilleri, on the WTC, and why perhaps it's worth to go there, either as a mark or a member of a team?
Honestly, part of me thinks we should just be encouraging people to come as spectators now. It's that kind of amazing and impactful to the game. It is really the Olympics. It is the pinnacle of the sport. If we're going to call what we do a sport or a game or whatever you want, pinnacle of the hobby. This is the top level. The best players in the world playing at the highest standards with infinite, thousands of hours per team of preparation, tactics, nuance, list crafting, table crafting, pairings crafting. It's incredible how much effort goes into this, and then to see it all come to fruition. And then there are so many meetings of the minds moments. There are so many games you will see at this event you can't see anywhere else in the world. Like the finals of this event, Liam Hackett versus Jaime Paris. So it's a Spanish gentleman and an Australian playing at the top table of the singles. You just won't see that anywhere. You won't see that in life. Brad Chester versus Eric Lathuris, playing when Team Australia played Team England. Was it Skark from Poland, one of the most famous, best players in history. Well, GOAT. I don't know if you use the term GOAT, greatest of all time. He's a greatest of all time contender at the world level, at the international level, playing against my man, the sisters player who beat me, Jeremy Martino, and Jerry managed to take a couple of points off him, and which was a big deal. But those matchups, you just in your head, when you think of what would happen if Muhammad Ali fought Mike Tyson in their prime. At the WTC, you get to see that stuff where you got a champion of one side of the world playing against a legend of another side of the world, and you get to see what happens when they mash together. It's the pinnacle of the game. It's the best level of the game, the most enjoyable level of the game. And I can't wait to go. I might just go next year, just play in the singles and just watch. Just like if I really want to commentate, but if I can't commentate, I'm just going to walk around and just heckle people, laugh with my mates, and just enjoy myself. It's just such an incredible event, and I highly encourage anybody who can go. If you're in or around Belgium, or if you get a little bit, just get a weekend off or whatever, go and just check it out. Like Mechelen's going to be there for the next 2 years. It's a beautiful little town. There's actually quite a few things to see. Bring your wife, bring your family, make a week of it. Go see the sights, check out the WTC finals, have a good time.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And to be perfectly honest, Adam, I adore you as a player. Apparently, or obviously, as you said, you can pull off good scores even in unfavorable matchups. But to be perfectly honest, mate, this event needs a stream and it needs a good commentator, and I think you're the guy.
Well, I do want to say that the French War Games.
Yes.
They put on the stream this year. I tried to put it together myself. I couldn't get it over the line. It was just too much money for me to cop. But the French wargaming community, they crowdfunded the stream themselves. Many thousands of euros went in there, and without them, there'd be no coverage of this event. So thank you very much to the French community. If anybody's watching from the French community or anybody contributed to getting that stream off the ground, thank you very much. We owe you quite a bit, because otherwise we'd have nothing. Yeah, we'd have nothing.
That's true. That's true. The Polish community, as far as I know, we've been on that stream all the time, the entire Discord, commentating what was going on, and
the support.
If it hadn't been for the guys, listen, as a short summary, I mean, we did the summary of the event, but I would like you, again, as a person who follows the meta, who follows tournaments, who has now played in one of the biggest tournaments, at least in this part of the world. How would you assess the game right now? Is the game 9th edition? Is it in a good place? Is there a good army spread, an even army spread, or does the game still need some tweaks?
I think it still needs some tweaks. I think this is the best 9th edition has been. I think 9th edition has been. Can I swear on your show?
Obviously.
9th edition's been fucking shit for most of it. Most of 9th edition has been shit. It's been overpowered, underpowered, overpowered, underpowered, and this is the first time I think we've had a decent amount of armies that can actually play at the same level. Like, we have a decent competition between armies. I think Necrons are too good. Just their secondaries, their army, I think it's fine as long as you don't let people reanimate menhirs, which is stupid. As long as you don't let stupid stuff like that happen. The army is fine. It's just the secondaries need to be toned down. Sisters are similar. Their secondaries can get toned down a bit. If you just do that, and then I think Tyranids continue to like steamroll people, and they've got shit secondaries. Their secondaries are shit. Straight up, they're bad. But if you hit them again with points, like, they might as well be like the same price as Custodes, they're overcosted. So I'm not quite sure what happens there. I think the flyer it needs to change a little bit. I don't know, just reword the Reaper of Obliterax, or reword Overrun, so that it's not engagement range, it's 3 inches or 6 inches or something, so make it a little bit worse, and then that would fix a lot of that. But apart from that, like, the game's in actually a pretty respectable spot. There's some stuff at the bottom that needs to be reworked, like Orcs need some love. Help Orcs. GSC, surprisingly, I think are okay, but they just need the right pilot, but they could use a little bit of love as well. Drakari can now seem like they need a little bit of love also. Probably just a little bit of points drops. And actually, is there any others?
Well,
probably
Guard could actually get a book.
Sorry? Oh,
Guard could actually get a book.
Oh my god. Are you guys starting to hear rumors of 10th edition?
Yeah, that's probably coming sooner than the book.
I'm hearing 10th edition is about, it could be like 12 months to 18 months away, possibly sooner, but I don't know anything for sure. This is just rumors. And man, you're telling me the Guard book's going to be like, what, 5.5 years old by the time that shit comes out? I'm just going to be angry. I'm going to be very angry.
That's just broken. Yeah. So,
Chaos is an interesting one as well.
Chaos didn't get to play at that event, right? Because it was such a fresh book that it didn't make the cut off.
And I hear good things about the mechanics and the army list, but they're like, they might need a better secondary game as well, because they seem to be pretty much where Tyranids are at.
And I need to ask also, when I saw the summary of like how many armies players brought to, or teams have brought to the event, Sisters took the absolute first spot.
It was every team. Every team, I
Exactly.
think, took sisters. Yeah.
But do you think it was the right choice? Did they actually perform,
So yes
or
and
was it
no.
like a
Like,
bubble?
so the reason, so Sisters was undeniably one of the best armies in the game going into it, possibly the best or equal best singles army in the game, and everyone took them. And I don't think they did that well. For one of the best armies in the game, I don't really think they did that well. I think Necrons
Hmm.
did very respectably for where they're at. But Sisters, the issue with Sisters is that their list was solved. Everyone knew what list was going to be taken
Yeah.
for Sisters 3 months before the event. So
Hmm.
everybody had a pin, everybody had reps, everybody had practice, everybody knew everything about the Sisters lists. And when you bring a list like that, that everyone knows exactly what the build is going to be and how they're going to play, what secondaries are going to take, it knocks down the differential. It just makes the
Right.
differential close. Everyone just gets closer and closer against that. Even the reds start becoming oranges, start becoming yellows. I mean, I felt it even in my games. I played against Sisters, I think, 4 times with my list. And first game was a 20-0, 18-2, and I then ended up getting 16-4s. I reckon you give me 10. If I had a month of practice and played 10 more games, I could get that down to a 13-7 or a 16-4, respectively, across the time. And then you can put me up into that. If that's all they're getting out of one of their best armies, one of their best players, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what I think the issue with Sisters was.
Okay. And last question about the armies. So basically, Team Poland, till the very last moment, they weren't sure whether they should pick Blood Angels or Tyranids. And so as far as I know, and I hope to get an episode with the Polish national team as well. But eventually they chose Tyranids. They didn't go with Blood Angels. But I think there were like 15 Blood Angels at the event, or something like that.
Yeah.
So again, that army sort of exploded prior to the event, and nobody played Space Marines, and suddenly Blood Angels jumped into the fray. And again, rightfully so, or not so much?
I think right. See, I think Dark Angels was, of course, I would say this. I think Dark Angels were a better pick than Blood Angels because of how solved they were. Do you use this word in Poland? The solved list. Like, everyone knows what they're going to do. Everyone knows what's going to be in the list. It has no tricks. Has nothing it's going to do to you that you won't see coming. And I think at the top level of the game, taking things that I'll say it's about Team England. Yeah. One of the reasons I don't think Team England did that well, as I looked at their list, I'm like, this is exactly what I would guess they were taking. As in, there are no surprises. Nothing in this lineup is going to do above and beyond the expected scores. Nothing's really going to shake up. It just goes back to player skill, and either your players are good enough to make the difference or not. And they did exceptionally well. They had a very strong score, very strong. Is it 5th? They came 5th. Yeah,
I think just after
they did very well. But I looked at their lists, and then I looked at Australia's list, and I'm like, well, Australia is like the other side of the coin. Everything's different than what you'd expect. Poland's another good one for this. Poland does this very often as well, where they take what everyone else thinks that list looks like, and they shift a little bit of it, and now it plays different. Now it plays different to what you think. Germany did it with their Tyranids. They took Leviathan Tyranids, but they made it all mortal wounds. They made it all psychic phase. And so when people saw Leviathan Tyranids and put their score in, it wasn't accurate because it's not warrior spam and crap like that. It's all just mortal wound hate. And that was one of their best performers. And so, yeah, I think Blood Angels fell into that category. Although I think Blood Angels, by dint of how they score their points, so they score their points by being in your deployment zone, by dominating your field, I think they're a better differential getter than Sisters if paired the same way as Sisters, because what they do to get their points is take points away from you. What Sisters do to get their points is sit on their side of the table and get 85,
right.
And so I think just by the way they play, Blood Angels was a little bit better than Sisters.
Okay. All right. I think that's a pretty spot on summary. And I think
also it's one more thing. I would say that that's exclusively for the case of the Blood Angels list that were built to take the Death Company secondary. That was the ace in the hole that made them a better differential. That made them better at getting differentials than Sisters. They made them better. The ones that weren't built for it,
because it's just a very good secondary.
It's just a very good secondary.
Right. Okay, Adam, I know that you have other commitments. I know that you're a busy person, so I'm again extremely happy that we managed to, find that you managed.
My absolute pleasure.
And mine as well. Listen, however it sounds, final words, or would you like to plug anything, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, by all means. I actually did interviews. So I've got my episode of Art of War Down Under coming out this week. I don't know. Is this episode going to come out this week, mate?
Yeah, like today or tomorrow probably.
Beautiful. So I have interviews with Team Germany, Team Poland, and Team Australia coming out on my show. And so the Polish powerhouse is out in force. I was joined by Pumba and Patrick.
My son, yeah, the Harlequins player.
Harlequins and Tyranids players, and they were absolute maestros, absolute gentlemen on my show. So please come over and check that out if you will. Here's some of your own boys. We also have the beautiful part 2 where I break down the lineups for the respective teams. So I recorded half an hour with Germany for part 1 and part 2, Poland part 1, part 2, etc. The part 1 is literally telling the story of the team. Typhus, the team captain for Poland, having to be a champion and pick up the slack when one of your very strong players, I hear, got COVID and having to pick up and play. Story of your team coming through a bit of adversity there to get a very strong finish. I didn't know this as well. You had 5 new players at the international level this year and got second place. Like, well done. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Shows the strength of your community, the strength of the Polish national side.
Very kind.
So yeah, jump over Art of War Down Under over on Patreon, find us on YouTube, all those other good places. If not, see you on the Thursday show.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the Polish guys, to the Polish national team, shame on you. You didn't come to my show. You went to Adam. What the fuck? No, but you chose the higher quality. Yeah, I have to admit that.
No, they did. They'll be on here. You'll get them.
They'll be here sooner or later. And yeah, to my listeners, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, and if you want to hear from the Polish national team as well, then absolutely, follow us, subscribe, leave a like, leave a positive review in all the podcasting media that we are on, because it helps us grow and it helps us to bring in other amazing guests like this handsome gentleman. So
thank you.
And thank you, Adam. Thank you for being here. And I guess, yeah, thanks everyone. And until next time. Bye-bye.